Welcome to Rick's Scale Model Fix and another step-by-step video build. This time we're going to be looking at Kinetic's recent F-104J Starfighter in 1/48 scale. This is the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force boxing and contains markings only for a Japanese airframe. As with any build, it's always provident and a good idea just to familiarise yourself with the build sequence and the parts and the sprues. And this episode of the video build is just going to concentrate on really getting the fuselage halves together. So we'll concentrate on building the seat up and the cockpit, followed by the undercarriage bays, the radome, jet exhaust, and then finally just getting those two fuselage parts together. Now I have built one of these kits before. There are no issues with the kit along the way as it represented itself last time, so hopefully we should have a trouble-free build. I am going to be using some aftermarket items with this build. It's just to add a little bit of difference from the inbox one that I did previously. So we're going to use Edard's Look instrument panel. The detail on this is stunning. It's far better than I could ever hand paint, and it comes with the added bonus of having some seat belts as well. Looking for something different, I delved into the stash and managed to find an old decal sheet from Two Bobs. This is 48051 Komatsu Starfighters, and it gives a number of aggressor schemes and quite colourful options that aren't included in the kit. And I'm favouring the one with the blue centre section and the fuselage with the white wings and natural metal fuselage. So without further ado, let's get the bits off the sprue. Join me at the cutting mat. So we're at the bench. I've took the liberty of removing some of the ejector seat parts already from the sprue just to save time. It's quite a detailed unit straight from the kit, so we need to clean these parts up. So just taking a pair of side cutters, I'm just going to snip all the attachment points off and tidy the remaining sprue gates up. So it's really important to make sure that all these are removed, as it could compromise the fit of the parts as we're going through the build. So using a sanding stick, I'm just going to sand those mating surfaces and the sprue attachment points until they're gone. And we just need to take those off from the inside as well. There we go. So the seat is really quite detailed, and you could actually go through if you wanted to and open up those lightning holes in the seat frame. But we'll use a wash to bring those out, I think, just so that we don't weaken the plastic in that area. So again, just doing the same with the other section before we glue them together. I'm just using the tip of the knife just to remove those attachment points. And on the bottom of the seat as well, so it doesn't interfere when it's inserted into the cockpit. So there are two seats included in the kit, so just make sure that you're working with the right ones. They are quite completely different and they're not mentioned in the instructions. So if you pay attention to the part numbers, you should be okay. Talking about part numbers, Kinetic have mislabeled part C10 with a little side pipe in the ejector seat. So it's a case of hunting through sprue C to find the correct part, but it is not C10. So using Tamiya quick set cement, I just got those seat frames together like so. Whilst we're waiting for that to dry, we'll just clean up some of the other parts. So we've got the seat cushion and survival pack here. So I've got the headrest. And again, I just need to trim these parts to make sure that they fit correctly. And we just need to just quickly just sand the edges. That's quite a large sprue gate like this, so carefully remove that, and then just sand the sides down to remove all traces of it. And again, so just using the knife blade just to clean the parts up there. So that can be added to the model. Tweezers are a must, certainly if you've got sausage fingers like myself. So I'm just making sure we get that the right way around. And that go on that. So again, using Tamiya quick set, push it home. Just making it sure that it's central, which it isn't at the moment. There we go. And the seat cushion goes in with the ridge to the back. So again, just thinking for painting, it might be better to just leave that as a separate piece for now. And then we've got this section, which is the ejector pull ring. So again, we'll just clean the sprue attachment points off at the end. And this goes in that location. Like so. There's an ejector pin mark right on the front of that. So we'll just make sure that that seat cushion still slots in, which it does. And the seat is coming along quite nicely. So we've just got the smaller side pieces to put on there, the little pipe works, and then we can look at assembling the cockpit tub and the ejector seat rails. So we've got these small pipes. So it's always really difficult to clean up when the parts are so small. The fear of damaging or breaking them is ever present. So we'll just whittle away. There we go, you see that's broke already. Not a great problem. We can glue that back together. Or even replace it with a bit of lead wire. There we go. So the top piece went in the little hole on the head box. Like so. Just a bit more glue to hold that in place. Yeah. There's the broken piece reattached in the position. So we're just going to have a centre seam the back of there, unfortunately, which we can clean up. And then we've got this smaller section that goes on the seat side. And again, just trimming the end of the pipe and a bit of glue in the location. And attaching it in place. So, as you can see, the ejector seat still has its seat belts to be fitted, and it needs painting up. But as the kit plastic parts go, that's quite a good looking representation of the ejector seat. So we'll put that to one side to dry. We are going to need to do a little bit of seam clean up work, etc. to that, and then we can get that painted. So the next stage is section 3. So this deals with the instrument panel, hand controls, throttle and bulkhead. So we need these parts from the sprue. Okay, so we've got to just remove these attachment points again. And just give it a quick sand, just to make sure everything's good. And we can attach the bulkhead. Just get rid of those mould parting lines, seam lines. And this simply just slots into place. Again, just got to move, sand off the sprue attachment points, and then this will simply just glue into place. Again, that'll tell me a quick set. And we'll just hold that in place while the glue quickly bites. So as you can see, the cockpit tub is really quite detailed. It'll look good once it's been painted. And we're going to use that Edard Look instrument panel. We've got the control column. So we're not going to add this to the model at this present time. We're going to set that aside to a safe place for it to be masked and painted. You could hand paint it if you want, but I prefer to spray paint everything as you get a better finish. So we just get one of the tops off a cotton bud tub, and we'll keep these smaller parts in there so they don't get lost. Okay. So the next stage of the build is to add the ejector seat rails to the ejector seat. So these are parts C29 and C28. So we shall remove those from the sprue. And again, the all-important clean-up. Just caught that one there, so that was probably going to need a little bit of sanding. again, make sure we cut all these off. And these are going to now be joined together. One thing we noticed there is there's a bit of flash on. Again, the fit's okay, so liberal application of Tamiya quick drying. And the parts can go together. Oops. Get that glue to bite properly. Don't we need to be concerned about the seam line as it goes to the back of the cockpit? We'll just add a bit of glue in there to make sure it doesn't ping open again. And we'll add that to the waiting parts. So all these parts now need to be cleaned up and painted. So join me back at the workbench and we'll see what progress has been made. The next section that we need to deal with are the exhaust parts. So these have just been given a quick coat of Alclad jet exhaust. They're a bit shiny at the moment, but we'll tone that down with the matte varnish. Detail is quite good. And we've got the jet can there. Bit shiny on camera probably. It's got a wealth of detail that will respond to a little bit of dry brushing later. So we're just going to glue these parts together. So there's a little key on the front of which denotes which way round this goes. I've already cleaned the parts up, the fit's really good. And we're just going to run some Tamiya quick set along the joint lines. And we're going to pop the fan in at the end, like so. Just to get a bit of glue on my fingers there. So once the build is completed, the jet pipe itself and the petals will actually just slot on. So we're not going to leave these off at the moment. It's just going to aid masking when we do the painting later on. So this will be trapped between the fuselage halves once it's dry. And we'll move on to the next part of the build. So the build's progressing quite quickly, building up these internal sections. The next one we're going to do is the nose gear bay. So as you can see, this is made up from a number of pieces and the parts are really quite well detailed. So it's going to look nice with a decent paint job and a wash applied. So we're just going to glue these parts together. And just keeping the fingers out of the way while we run the glue. A bit of glue in there first. And making sure that we get everything lined up. I'm going to add the rear section. Yeah, there's a couple of ejector pin marks on there, so I've just turned it round so that the parts are on the part with the ejector pin marks there are on the back, the rear surface. Just making sure everything goes in place. So we've got two smaller detail parts to go in. So looking at this diagram, they go into cutout, and there's a hole on the side. Like so. If you now fighting me whilst we're on camera. So just hold it in place while the glue dries there. And we're going to add the other side on. Hopefully it'll all line up. Which it does. And the fit is really good on this kit. So it's so far on the build of parts, all it literally needed is the location, the sprue attachment points cleaning up, and then we need to get this other base in. A bit more challenging this time. There we go. So it all fits. So I'll add the glue from the back. Get the other tweezers. It's helpful that there's a focused view there just to show the arrangement of all the parts. We've got those in the right place, and then very reminiscent of the Hasegawa kit. For anyone that's built that, we now attach this to sort of a plate that sits in the nose of the underside of the aircraft. Right, so again, the fit's really good. So I'll just as you can see, that's quite a nice detailed part. Once that's painted up, it'll certainly look good. And with the addition of a wash, it'll bring all those details out. So all that's left for us to do now as we're working through is the main gear bay. So that looks relatively straightforward. Nice focused view there, making sure you get the orientation of the parts B7 and B8 the correct way round. We've got the radome to join together, and then we can look at getting the fuselage together to conclude this part of the video. The build's coming together quite quickly now, so we've removed the fuselage parts from the sprue and cleaned those up. There's no fit issues at all whatsoever. We've taped those together, and we're just going to dry fit some of these sections, and as you can see, the fit of the parts is absolutely perfect. It would rival Tamiya in quality of fit there, so that will be glued in shortly. So that's okay. We've got the other bits and pieces now built up. So we've got the main gear bay assembled and constructed, and that can be added. The radome, again, perfect fit. Just a little bit of rescribe work where we've just sanded the seams. Jet pipe, as we saw in the previous part of this video. Cockpit tub has now been painted up and just needs detail painting. And along with the seat as well. So hopefully in the next part we can see all this come together and the fuselage sections joined and the build progresses. So thanks for watching part 1. There is a review of the kit up on the channel, so if you want to have a more detailed look at what's included in the box, please go and have a look at that one. So until next time, please take care.